Welcome back. This is the poet Izzy Human with the philosopher Dunamis on this week's episode number 21, Fight for Forgiveness. Oof. Please be sure to hit that like button on your way in. And if you like us, consider subscribing to keep up with our episodes on YouTube and give us a follow on X.
Fightcast is here to empower individuals to live healthier, master finances, pursue their dreams, and inspire others through self-awareness and global impact. As always, this is for entertainment and educational purposes only and not financial advice.
Dunamis, what's poppin'?
Oh man, this has been a wild week, and there's a lot going on in the news. Uh, there's just there's still I'd love to say that everything's peaches and cream, but you know it's been uh, it's been a little stressful, but I'm feeling good right now. I'm feeling actually really good tonight. So how you feeling?
I'm gonna have to ask you what you're stressed about, man, because I feel like I've been Patrick Starr this week and definitely been living under a rock. Yo, man, I've been chilling, man. I have been just working and making music and just chilling, bro. I started running again.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's been character building.
Where are you running at?
So I run in so I live out in the country, y'all. So where I live at, it's I guess you could say it's a really big hill or a mountain or whatever. But it's just a big country road. And on one side of it, you've got the big hill, and then on the other side, it's just more curvy and maybe just a little bit of an incline. Well, I started with the hill first. It's not bad getting down the hill, just controlling your stride and making sure you don't wipe out by going too fast. But going up that hill, man, that was ooh, my quads were on fire. They were on fire. And I was doing this walk run thing, and then I finally had to tell myself, I'm gonna make it to the mailbox. Yeah. Yeah. My soul's still on that mailbox right now. Oh man, but it's been good. It's been good. It's really hard to believe that it's already the end of the week.
Yeah, man, I'm definitely interested in hearing what your thoughts are on the subject of forgiveness and what brought us to this subject this week.
Yeah, I don't I usually am very privileged with you hitting me with the topic, and it's always great. And I'm like, yeah, dude, let's roll with that. So you've been the one that's been doing this the whole time. I had to compliment you and follow suit. So at first I didn't know what the heck we were going to talk about, but for some reason this one just stuck out of my mind a lot, and it just made me think about everything that's been going on in the past few months. And to go back to what you had mentioned about the self awareness is key because a lot of the times what we tend to do as humans is we look at how people did us wrong, but we don't reflect back on our actions that cause certain things, the accountability factor into that. And you really put perspective into situations and how you got there. A lot of that does surface back to you. And when you realize that everything that it happens starts with you, no matter what it is, it always starts with you because you're involved, which is why you have those thoughts. Then that in itself is a very, very big, hard pill to swallow. But when you come to terms with just knowing that it starts with you, I feel like that's what makes meditation better because nobody else can meditate for you. You meditate for your own inner healing. So you do have to be aware of these things. You have to be aware of the things that are eating you up. Be aware of the things that you love and all of that, so on and so forth. So yeah, a lot of that, man. And you gotta know yourself before you can sit there. Like because you have to have a purpose for sitting there. Like, why are you meditating? Are you just sitting and just like thinking about a million things in the world and then nothing? I mean, you didn't get anything done. You just sat there and thought about a million things. But
Mhm.
did you find any solutions? That's the other thing about meditation too, is helping you gear more towards solutions as well. That's what I love about it. It's that clarity.
Hmm. Well, on the subject of solutions and on forgiveness, I think so many of us think about forgiveness as something that's for the other person,
Mm,
you
hmm.
know, and we don't think of it as something that we need for ourselves to get to maybe the next step in our life, or to get over something that's been holding us back or putting us in a cycle.
Yeah,
I say this from experience because this is something that I'm dealing with personally. So this is a very timely subject, and
sure,
I don't come at this from the place of somebody who has been very forgiving recently. So
sure,
this is something that it's difficult. It is a hard thing to be able to forgive, I think, and that's maybe what we need to start off with, is that it's a process. This is not something where you can necessarily just snap your finger, depending on what it is. So I I I think that 99% of the time, I like to always think of the illusion of a duck. I've always heard the idea of being like a mallard duck, and a duck is one that anything just flows right off of his back, right?
mm,
There's nothing, just like a duck, it's gonna flow right off of your back and be gone, and you're never gonna think about it again.
yep,
And for the small stuff, that works. If it's a little thing, yeah, I mean, it's easy just to kind of overlook that and forgive it and be over with and gone. I think where the problem is some of the bigger things, the betrayals, the people that said they were your friend, that you seemingly stabbed you in the back, right? The people that
mm,
you thought were there for you, that I've always believed very strongly in loyalty. I've always had that built in my core. I've always thought that the antithesis, I guess, of loyalty, whatever the opposite of that is, never made sense to me. Like, you have your people, you have your clan, you have your friends. The whole idea of being betrayed, I would say, probably took me by surprise as I've grown up and seen it play out and happen over and over again. On the macro side of things, I think about this country, and before we get too
mm.
long in this podcast, I think about all of the stuff that there's a lot of people freaking out about the tariffs still, and trade and what's going on with China, and
Yeah, with the world, and looking at all of this, and man, if I could be honest with some of you guys, I think, oh, it's easier said than done, Izzy. Man, I think y'all just really need to relax. You really just need to relax. We've been talking about how this structure, we've all said it in some shape or form, that we need to rebuild. So when we actually start to rebuild, then now it's everything is falling apart, and this never going to be
mm,
the same. And what do you want? You can't win for losing at that point. And what did you expect to happen? And I'm personally, I couldn't wait for this. I couldn't. I couldn't wait for it. I couldn't wait for the typhoon. I really couldn't. I was excited. I'm still excited. And
mhm,
I know that we all have different opinions about what's going on, and I'm looking at it from a global standpoint. I'm looking at it from our standpoint here, being here in the States. I see a lot of good things that are happening, and a lot of my faith has to do with that, because a lot of my faith teaches me to be patient
mhm,
about things. And I've been patient with a lot of things in my life that I am able to control. And so far, I've seen positive results. So, Dave Chappelle was talking about Donald Trump during a stand up. And Dave Chappelle, to me, is a very prominent figure in the industry, because he's just always been the way that he is, and he's always been very honest and genuine. So I really do take his words. I do hear him when he speaks, and one of the things that he said was, "Listen, man, for you're here, and you're here by majority. Just take care of it." And I hear Donald Trump when he says he wants to be a peacemaker. I do,
mhm,
and I also people to understand that you wouldn't know peace if you didn't know chaos, and vice versa. You don't know what these other things mean until you see what it means the other side. And yeah, it looks chaotic right now because our media is involved again, of course, as always. And they're trying to pull you one way or the other. They're trying to get you to go crazy. They're trying to get you to go buy more canned goods at the store. They're trying to get you to buy more toilet paper. They're trying to tell you we're about to go into this crazy recession. Dude, they've been telling us that we're going into a recession for 2 months. Like, what? I was in Mississippi and saw eggs go down by $1, and my mom laughed at me, and I'm like, yeah, but it's still $1. um, I just tell people to relax, man. I know it's easier said than done, but at some point you got to stop saying that, and you just got to do it, man.
Yeah.
I'm getting to that point now. I want to be around people that do things.
Hmm. We have so much tension, I think, and there's a lot of people that talk that don't do things. But I feel like we do need to have that spirit of forgiveness going forward, even though it's really crazy. We hear about fraud. We hear about all these crazy things that are sort of going on, and those are things that you can't just say like we're gonna forgive you and move on. there's there's steps and accountability and stuff that needs to happen for people that have done wrong. And on the same side of things, I think there's the United States has done wrong in the world. And I would say that even though whatever actions and cause and effect have to play out, it makes sense for us individually and maybe as a country and maybe as humans, as humankind, to try and look around and at least for ourselves, remember this isn't for the other side, this isn't for the other people, this is for us, but maybe like look at the world from more through the eyes of a blank slate, right?
Mm, mm,
And I don't say that as somebody who has effectively done this yet, but I say that maybe that's what we need to try and strive to do, is
yeah.
to say, hey, whether it's I'm angry at all of the people that have put us in this situation that we're in now, or I'm angry at the guy who's in power now, or I'm angry at whatever that I'm angry at the tariffs and what they're doing to my personal country. It could be any of those things. Um, and again, I don't think that forgiveness necessarily means that the other person is not going to go through a court of law or a process of, you know, I mean, the dollar could collapse. We don't know what the full outcome of what has happened. There is cause and effect that happens in this universe.
Mhm.
And so outside of that cause and effect, I think that we for ourselves need to learn how to forgive the people that have done us wrong.
Well, when you look at it, I look at it as sinners judging sinners for sinning differently.
Yeah.
And that, to me, like, that is when I hear that, or like I tell myself that, and part of my French for saying this, I just tell myself to shut the F up.
Hmm.
Just shut up. Like, just what are you talking about? You know what I mean? At the end of the day, like, I'm mad at who for what? Like, what? Because of something that I had seen on the news. I don't know this person from Adam at all. I just have heard about their political views and all of the good things or all of the bad things that they did, but I've never golfed with this person. I've never met their kids. I've never met their wife. I've never encountered this person ever. So I don't like somebody over a TV screen. It's no different than somebody not liking me at all because they don't like my music and they just think that I'm a bad person because they think my music is bad. They don't know
Hmm.
me at all. So, with that being said, when you think about all of that, I look at it as we as America put ourselves in this situation years ago after the wars when everybody was down and out and we wanted to be Captain Save the World. And at one point, it was needed. and it got abused over time because we kept giving and people kept taking, and there were no boundaries that were set. It was just a, we're going to do everything that we can. We put ourselves trillions of dollars in debt, and now we have to get ourselves out of this mess. And now people are mad because it's like Big Brother's like, hey man, I can't give you any more money. You know, my bad. My pockets are tapped. What do you mean? What do you mean? What? It's like, dude, I've given you trillions of dollars. You know what I mean? We've created these programs, and I would say that everything came from humble beginnings. That's the other thing too, is I'm not disagreeing with any of these programs that were established to help, and all of the, yeah, there's a lot of things that are happening right now that are affecting millions of people who didn't do anything at all. People like us, the peons, as I would say, and we're facing all of that. However, we have to be able to get the parasites out of those originally pure organizations to make them more effective. You
Hmm.
have people within these organizations who are taking millions and millions of dollars, and less than 1% was actually going towards the actual cause itself. That's the issue that we're having here. We had people within our states that took advantage of that, but we put ourselves in that position. So I see us getting ourselves out of this right now. And it's not going to be easy, but from a global standpoint, and just from back to the topic, this is America forgiving themselves. Like, yeah, we, hey, yeah, we did it, but this is what we have to do to make it right. This is, and you got to look at it like that. And I think JD Vance, he puts a lot of perspective into that when he speaks, because I feel like everybody really just goes to Trump for the antics and they listen less. But I feel like JD is a very, I wouldn't say Trump is not grounded, but I feel like JD's a little bit easier on the ears.
Yeah, a little less, a little less for just for the cameras and for effect. You know,
Yeah,
um, on the one of the things that you said there, and this is maybe the third time this week as I've been thinking about our topic that it's come across my radar, and that was you said that the United States forgiving itself, and I want to ask you an important theological question here because
sure.
I've I hadn't really considered this, and it came across my path this week, the idea that I need to forgive myself. And from a scriptural perspective, I know there's a whole lot of scriptures about um, us forgiving others, how many times we need to forgive others, and all of that. I always felt like it was God's responsibility to forgive us.
Mm.
Am I wrong in that thinking? I mean, have I been thinking about it wrong? Is an honest question here.
No, great question. And God forgives everything that you do, every single second. But what I will say is God is within us in all aspects. It doesn't matter what book you're reading, there is a piece of God that is in us. We are all a reflection of God and a light. So that forgiveness is within us. So as God forgives us, that God that is within us, we must forgive ourselves. That is our ability. That's one of our abilities, is the forgiveness portion of it.
Hmm.
You can, all of this other material stuff doesn't mean anything at all. But if you're not fulfilled, like mentally and spiritually, and really just in that moment, then what does any of that even mean? And I feel like you break a lot of cycles. So you don't ever break a loop, because life is this loop. When I think about the loop, man, I think about our solar systems. It's the reason why I don't believe the earth is flat. I just feel like there's much more symbolism behind these spheres than just them being planets. It's just this loop. And even just the revolutions and the rotations and all of that, life is a loop. But what happens within that life is up to you. So when you forgive, you break certain cycles, and then you start to form new loops. You start to form these positive loops or whatever. It's like, okay, lady needed help crossing the street, or you donated to the food bank and you didn't put it on Instagram, and whatever, and so on and so forth, and boom, 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 boom. I'm not doing these things because I expect anything. I do these things because I'm here to service the people. I'm here
Hmm.
to service the people. I'm here to service the people that exist in this world. I'm nurturing that. I'm helping plants grow. So what happens? Then I get watered, then
Mhm.
I get sunlight, and then I grow, and then I can continue to do that, and then becomes this, and it becomes that. But it all starts from within, because if you don't have a love within yourself to be compassionate towards others, then it's not going to be portrayed that way. So I feel like words cast spells, guys, and that could be really witchy to y'all, but all words are spells because everything is sound. Even the things that are, what's the word I'm looking for, inanimate, still have energies to them. So, all of that being said, being more conscious on even how you stub your toe, it's as minute as that. Micro, macro, all of that, really, it's so minute and how much that makes a difference. What do you mean stubbing your toe? It's like, dude, if I stub my toe and I kick my dog and I punch a wall, like, versus being like, well, that didn't feel good. Just that part.
Well, you know that while before we get down into like personal stuff, while we're still talking like high level macro, I had a thought as I was walking around today about Generation X and
Mm,
how, it's really interesting that all of the craziness that's going on in the world, there's really an awakening that's happening, a red pilling where there's the stuff, and it has nothing to do with Republican or Democrat. If you're not awake yet, hang around, listen to what we're talking about, or what a lot of other people are talking about. But there is an awakening that's happening in this country, and I feel like that awakening, if it didn't start in Generation X, it's definitely been very strong in that generation. And I was wondering why is my generation, that has been so neglected and quiet and not wanting to get involved in politics and not wanting to get involved in any of the business of the world. We we basically were content living our lives, and a lot of us are very independent thinking people, and
mhm.
there's not any. Generation X is definitely not a whole bunch of people on the right either. If anything, I'd say we'd probably lean more to the left. But there's a lot of very strongly, fiercely independent people that fit into this generation. And
Yeah.
again, in this meditation, I was thinking about how my parents' generation grew up in a time when young men and young women grew up fit and strong and
Mhm.
healthy. And if they fell down and got hurt, I mean, it's there's just a difference, I think, in the way that generation was in from a health perspective. And then you have my generation coming into a time when processed foods were really taking over heavily and
Mhm.
becoming ingrained, and Pop Tarts and Hot Pockets and all of that stuff in the 1980s and the 1990s. And processed foods was really what a lot of us grew up on. In many ways, our generation is the gap between the analog age and the digital age.
Mhm.
But we're also, many of us grew up in a time when there weren't a whole lot of autistic people in the
Mhm.
world when we were born and when we were growing up. And I don't even think there was anybody that had ADHD or ADD for the most part when I was a kid. And yet
Mhm.
I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was about 25 years old.
Okay.
So
Wow. A little late.
a little late, yeah. But and thinking back through my life, I think about the symptoms and even how maybe the symptoms have developed over time.
Mhm.
It's different now because people get sick so much younger. They're they're getting sick at a younger age. They're developing diabetes at a younger age. I just read about a 14-year-old boy that had a heart attack, I think, and died in a track meet. It's
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did. Oh my gosh.
there's the and whether you want to take the conspiracy road and say that this is all do it has to do with COVID shots, or whether this has to do with the food, I really don't care what it has to do with. It's crazy to me that people are dying for things that people did not die of 100 years ago.
100%. That, like, how in the world does that happen? Somebody's just running, and it makes you want to look into everything. It makes you want to look into just even the genetics of the parents too, and were the parents on medication, and what were the long term effects of those medications, and how that would be passed, from a DNA standpoint, and what potential complications could come into that. So that just makes me wonder in that aspect too. Like I don't care about the other stuff. Like it's just so crazy. And we were talking offline about that too. Just with and you I'm glad you brought it up with the processed foods. And dude, I think about processed foods, things that aren't good for your body, things that are like just toxic to your body. And then you add in, gosh, I sound crazy tonight, y'all. They go crazy tonight.
It's
So like,
controversial.
yeah, and then you got media, and then it becomes this thing where instant gratification comes into play, and there's always something that's going to get us next and get us next. Like, man, they've been conditioning us to have ADHD. They've been conditioning us for a long time to say bump the slow morning, get to that 9 to 5, get in that rush hour traffic, get there on time, get there 15 minutes early, get there 20 minutes early, get there, work that overtime, make that money, boom, 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 boom. Don't think for as long as you can throughout the day,
Hmm.
and then do it again. They've been doing that for a long time. So then when you get to thinking on your own, you can't stop thinking about other stuff. Man, I haven't thought about me in a minute. Yeah, man, think about that. That got
Yeah.
me talking crazy enough.
No, this is important stuff to be aware of. It's controversial, but it's something that we need to. And if you don't agree with what we're saying, especially as I'm about to talk about what's next too,
Fight
fight us,
me.
fight us in the comments. And what I'm going to say here is that to sum up a lot of this is just that culturally, there's things that we have to forgive that we don't even recognize fully yet. And I think that as you start to wake up, as you start to wake up, you're going to want to forgive your government potentially for things that they've done to you. You're going to need to maybe forgive some of big pharma and these, the solution isn't to go out and kill the CEO on the sidewalk of the insurance companies. It's to forgive and move on for yourself. There is the message of what we're talking about tonight. If there's wrong that's been done to all of us, every single one of us have been wronged. Some meant much more than others, but every single one of us, for us and not for that other person, needs to find the place where we can forgive, not forget, but we need to forgive and be able to put that what has been done to us throughout our lifetime that has put us in this position. We need to look
Yeah.
at that and be able to find a place to forgive and move on.
hmm And when you realize that these things were happening before you even came along, you have to get over yourself, and you have to realize that they weren't thinking about specifically you, or this is just what they came up with, and we got caught up in this line of fire, as you will, but it didn't have anything to do with us specifically. And the more you realize that you just have to accept the things that you can't change and change the things that you can't accept. The only thing that you can change in this world is yourself and how you view things.
It's not
I
personal.
don't,
It's
yeah.
not personal. It's like a machine. If a machine, a grinder will grind up all kinds of meat just the same.
hmm
The machine hates us all. And we are, like you said before, we represent the plebs,
Yep.
and I say that as I come from a middle class family, and
Same.
the middle class of America has been absolutely destroyed. I won't use the word that I was about to say, but it has been,
Beep.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's the middle class, the working people of this country, the hardworking people of this country are what makes America what it is. and they always have, and they always will. We've talked a lot about finding a talent recently in trade schools, and at some point, maybe the government has put you in a position where you're dependent, where you're in debt, where you've got a job that you hate, where you maybe or maybe you don't have a job, maybe you're on welfare, right? And you feel like you can't get out of what it is, the situation that you're in. Forgiveness can be step one to taking a step forward. And the thing is we have to forgive, but we also have to sometimes separate. And dependency on the government is another form of slavery. It's a dependence is they how they keep us from being free, from being independent, being able to stand on our own.
Mhm.
So,
It is. Yeah, it is, man. All of that. And I know it seems like maybe a bit of a loop in what we're saying. I do catch it. I do catch it at times, but I do like that. I do like that we're always able to get back to that center point, because I feel like that's a symbolic thing for our audience to, to understand, because at the end of the day, everything goes back to you. Everything will always go back to you. All of the forgiveness and anything and everything that we talk about in all of these podcasts, it all starts with you. Whether you're fighting for food or whether you're fighting for your community or your purpose, everything starts with you. And just understanding who you are, and killing that imposter syndrome, killing the ego, and not feeling so above that you forget what below is. As above, as below. It's really understanding this balance of of just life in itself, and just knowing that if you teeter too far to the left or right, no pun intended for a political stance, then you're going to fall over. It's just the natural way of it's just the natural way of life. It is. It's just like if the lions were the strongest animals in the kingdom, and then there was nothing to take them down, we wouldn't have any other species but lions. It's elephants, whatever the heck it is. There are more of us than there are of them. And when we come together and we understand our purpose, and we have self actualization, and we have forgiveness within ourselves to say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. What can they say to us?
mhm.
And yeah, go ahead. Yeah, yeah. Because I was going to make a statement about you saying something about the welfare too, because I feel like there might be a little bit of pushback on that too. But for example, like disability and people that do have that dependence in some way because they're not actually able to work, whatnot. And I can't say that I feel that, but because I'm not disabled. But
Well, there's
yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
I've always felt like there needs to be room made, and we haven't talked about that, especially not on this podcast. So this is a good time, I guess, for me to sort of state my opinion on the matter,
Yeah, please.
because I am, for the most part, I don't think that we need to have as much welfare as we do in this country, but there are very clearly situations where the most vulnerable of us are need to have the most bare necessities met, right? And so there needs to be a allowance made for that. I think fraud and abuse needs to be eliminated, and at the same time, yeah, all of those things where you talk about disability and stuff, those things need to be made available. But I think that as those things get, if those things can be scaled back to a certain extent, generally what you're trying to achieve is more people in the workforce, more people that are standing on their own, more people that are able to work independently. And as we kind of shift, I guess, on that subject from the ideas we're talking sort of as general populations and countries and the macro, breaking it down, this is a good sort of pivot to break it down to the individual. And as an individual, let's say that you're stuck, you're on welfare. That's all you know. You don't really feel like there's a way out. Is forgiveness in some way a point? Can that be a stepping stone? I mean, what is it that you need to do, you think, to take that first step and become independent?
You need to accept your abilities, or your I
Your
don't feel that
situation,
there's
really?
Yeah, you have to accept your situation. You have to accept that these are the circumstances that you're in, and you have a choice to have a poor mentality about it or have a rich mentality about it. Because now people look at these as handicaps and or deficiencies and all of these negative connotations that come with that, or incapable of doing these things. You have this set income or whatever, and it may not be a lot, but make the most of it. Oh, groceries are too, you know what I mean? Like there are so many things out here in this world that we can utilize resources, research, be feasible, and really still live good lifestyles. Really can. But it's the acceptance. It's the not blaming others. It's not being jealous or envious or whatever, and just that whole aspect of woo is me type deal. Because the further along you go into that rabbit hole, the more you just continue to just drown you just drown your soul. You give up. You give up. Accept your situation, accept your superpowers. Somebody's blind, their other senses are enhanced because one of their senses is missing. I think about Stevie Wonder, for example. I think about a lot of great artists, painters and things like that. Now, some of it was, medical, or some of it was induced or whatever. But, I've seen a lot of crazy artists do some wild things, and I still see people do wild things right now. People that may only have like one hand. I see people playing violins with their feet, dude, because they don't have hands. I mean, I've seen people drive that don't, whatever, like this, with just wild stuff with what people are doing. And me seeing stuff like that gives it just continues to like fulfill my faith, because humans are really intelligent. We're smart. We're geniuses.
It sounds like you're describing people though that in all of those cases there it's a situation where somebody doesn't feel bitter about their circumstance
Hmm. Yeah.
because whether it takes forgiveness maybe to get to that point, that's that they're not sitting in a place of where they're have a lack of motivation because they're blaming others. It's a situation where, all right, this has happened to me. It's not good, but what can I do to make the best out of the situation or to overcome it?
The best example that I can give is Forrest Gump with Lieutenant Dan, when Forrest Gump saved
Oh yeah.
him in Vietnam and he lost his legs and he just wanted to die there with like the rest of his generations or like, his old prior generations did. And for the longest time he had a hard time accepting that. And they were in New York, and Forrest Gump had just won the Purple Heart, and they said they gave you a Purple Heart, and then he ended up freaking sliding down the stairs. But over time, they got the boat, and then he ended up getting prosthetic legs, and he got married, and just that whole transformation of that, he
Hmm.
stopped being bitter about his situation, and he found God. And I
Yeah.
love that moment when he just jumped into the water and he just floated, and it was like he was free after that storm, which I thought was symbolism too. And I know Forrest Gump did that for a reason, man, because
Hmm.
after that storm, they caught all the shrimp, dog, and everything came into abundance. But it was after that initial forgiveness, the cycle broke, and then you started to see another loop.
Yeah. Yeah. That's man. It's such a difficult thing, I think, and the idea of forgiving oneself sounds like probably the most difficult of all things. But what are your thoughts on how to work through a betrayal, and what what does it take to sometimes accept when something really bad maybe has been done, and nobody that's listening has to worry about it. None of you guys have crossed me that bad. And yeah, but how do you come to grips with something, maybe something where someone has done something to you and it's cost you someone you loved or years
Mm.
of your life? Maybe you had to go to prison because of something that happened. Like, I'm talking about the big significant things that cause people to do bad things. I mean, how do you work through something like that? Is therapy needed, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think whatever is necessary for you to work through those thoughts, anything can be put on the table. I've not I don't have kids, and I really couldn't imagine what the feeling would be if somebody took my child's life. I really I couldn't imagine it. Kendrick Lamar had some pretty good bars in a song called XXX with U2. You should listen to it sometime. And he said, "Shoot, I might catch him at service if that's all I got." Because those are the feelings that you have because it's just there's just so much hate in your heart with that. But what are the repercussions that come with that? Then you go to jail, then there's no justice, and then you reciprocate that same energy. And that gosh, man, that's a tough one. It's really heavy. And that's loaded. Because again, I don't have kids, but what I do know is the people or not people, but things that have happened to me where I look back and I'm like, man, you really did me like that. That's wild.
It's crazy when you said ripple. I almost saw like a stone that gets just tossed. Yeah,
In
I
the
think we had
water.
one of our images even this week in one of our posts like that. But I imagined it more like being dropped more violently into the water, and then the splashes and the different ripples and repercussions that
Mhm.
come from that. But
Yeah.
yeah,
It's like there's a part in my brain that that would think or that comes through something happens and I think to myself, wow, the way the universe aligned for this to happen is unbelievable. It just and I think that in itself is a reset in my mind to just be like, you can't control this stuff, man. You can't control this stuff. There's always a moment that aligns that it's either in your favor or it's not. But that goes back into the just because there's suffering and just because there is suffering doesn't mean you have to suffer. Because I feel like we all get in that human mindset with our ego of like, well, why me? Why me? Why me? And it's like I had to think about it for a second. What do you mean, why me? It didn't even happen to me.
yeah.
Realistically speaking, but that's not easy either.
No,
I'm
no,
sorry,
it's
and I know you've got kids, man. So I like, how would
yeah,
you feel like I hate to even put it into the universe, but being a parent, man, like, because
yeah.
I know that thought process is completely different, bro.
There are certain things that I can tell you that I've had things that I've struggled to forgive, and there are things that I could imagine would be unbearable,
Mm,
and those uh those unbearable things are definitely things that I don't like to think about if and when something like that were to ever happen. So I definitely know what you're talking about. I know those things happen in the world, and those things are happening now. There's 30,000 missing migrant children still, aren't there? Something along those lines.
yeah.
There's there's evil that goes on every day, all the time, and those ripples, the bad ripples, pop up and appear in gossip and little conversations that we have and little thoughts. But those things, those negativities, I feel like if we don't feed them, they don't grow. But maybe unforgiveness is one of those ways that those negativities just can survive. They get their food from your unforgiveness, like, and just sort of feed and fester. I know that probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but
It does to me.
yeah.
Y'all just gonna have to play this back a couple times.
Yeah. It's forgiveness is something that like I said, I'm struggling with even right now, but it does feel like it's the part that unlocks the next thing that comes. It feels
Yeah.
like it's the maybe it's important that we talked about it not just for us but for a lot of other people out there.
Hmm.
But you have to let go of the hatred. there's a lot of negative energy in the world right now, I think, and we have to put it down. Individually, you have to put it down
Right.
for yourself
Hmm.
because it's eating up your heart. It the unforgiveness consumes us. It doesn't hurt the other person at all.
Right.
I know this, I say this, and yet I still struggle with this. So,
It, you saying it though is a part of acceptance, and you touched on, we talked about this a little earlier. It's just drawing a line with those emotions, knowing that those emotions exist, knowing that there's one way roads, knowing that there's certain curves that you're going to have to slow down at 35 to get to. To get through successfully, you can't just speed around it going 60 because you'll crash. So it's just even looking at it from that standpoint too, you got to be able to draw the line, because where you're at versus, it like could be in a different state in how you're driving. It's like that's just where it's at. That's just, it's there, it exists, I see it, but that's not where I sit. That's not where I sit. And I'm not going to have hate be my co-pilot while I'm driving this car when I'm trying to get to the light, because those things just like, okay, yeah, hate and light, but you can't have hate in your car with you. You'll never get to that light. You'll drive off the curb because that's the chaos that comes with that. And it's just like you end up attracting that. And there's all if there's something in your life that keeps repeating, you have to look at why it keeps repeating. And that's not because somebody else is doing it to you. It's because you're allowing it. And that's when you start to break those cycles. When you allow things to just get to you a little bit longer and just hold on and let that thought fester just a little bit longer to cause a reaction, and you do that enough times, there's always going to be one spot in your life that's just not going to feel complete. Everything else could be good. Like, let's say you make $1 million, but like you don't treat people nice at all. So when you go home, you feel lonely.
yeah,
It's like,
totally.
why am I so lonely? Why am
Yeah,
I so lonely? I've got everything I ever wanted, but I feel so lonely.
because you don't have anybody. Yeah, in that
Mhm.
situation, of course.
Yeah. Don't push people away, and that's the other thing too. When you get into this cycle of you're just not, you're not fulfilled, you start to push people away also, even good people, because now you don't have faith in this humanity. I One of my old bosses told me something about, him and I didn't see eye to eye, and he did something really nice for me. And he told me, he said, "Have faith in humanity." And I'm like, "You're a hypocrite, but okay." But it was really, but it was sound advice. It was. But even in what I just said, I didn't have. He wasn't my favorite person, but even when somebody's not your favorite, like there's always something that you can learn from somebody. Even in a situation, if something happens and like, life is taken in that space, there's something to be taken away from that. Like I look at that person, I'm like, man, you just weren't well, were you? You just weren't
That's
well.
that's the thing is we don't. I think that we don't recognize what other people are going through on a day-to-day basis. We don't know, you know, when when that guy cut me off driving down the road, that he is trying to get his kid to the hospital, or maybe he's just upset and having a bad day and didn't see me here. you know, there's there's all sorts of things. So much of what we do is perceived. It's projected, that we put out there, and when we feel slighted, when we feel hurt, when we get hurt by others, sometimes those other people have no clue. In fact, very
Mhm.
often that's probably the case. And
Yeah.
it's so crazy the way we are as humans, as little beings of consciousness, that get our feelings hurt all the time, and we're so emotional. But it's it's critical that we recognize that every other little being of light and consciousness out there is struggling with a million things too. You know, they all
Mhm.
have things that they're dealing with, and they're all completely different things probably than what you're dealing with, but everyone's got a hard life, man. If anything, I think what we do with kids is we try and shield them from what is inevitably going to be a difficult life as long as we possibly can, so that they can enjoy the innocence of what it is that they the DNA and the the beautiful programming that they bring into the world unencumbered for a little bit. We try and shield that, but this world is a harsh place, man, and
Mhm.
it's not because of God. God is good, but this
All
world
the
is a
time.
harsh place because of us. Yeah.
Mhm. And it's one by one. Somebody started that cycle, and to what you said about the kids, and I know we're getting close here. We'll have to, get her wrapped up. But with our kids, it's absolutely, we need to feed our inner child a lot more too, us as adults. And it's I feel like it's an obligation for us as adults who have kids to, continue to feed that inner child, and create a safe place for the imagination to grow and run wild. And then our jobs as adults are to help structure those dreams, and help them become reality, and help understand what manifestation is, and help understand what action is. And like, man, that's a great idea, dude. Have you thought about how you want to do it? Well, no. It's like, well, can I offer you? Can I make some suggestions for you? Sure. And then you do this, and then you're like, try that out. Let me know what you think. And then it works, and then they're like, oh my gosh, it works. But they see that process of just like, this is what they had to do
Mhm.
to have that happen. They understand the doing aspect of that. Anything is possible. If my child wanted to be an astronaut, wanted to be an astrophysicist, wanted to make tables, wanted to do tarot cards, I don't freaking care, man. Just be good at it. Just be good at it. You want a business? Okay, cool. Actually, I got something for you. Why don't you check out Chat GPT and put in what would be a good marketing strategy for this, whatever, helping them utilize their resources, and I feel like that in itself creates a reality of just knowing that anything that I do, I can do it, if I set my mind to it. But I'm not gonna let the world's projections tell me what I can and can't do. I'm not gonna let somebody just tell me that that's a one in a million niche right there. Somebody's still doing it though, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I
What
just I want that for my kids.
Yeah, you're describing something that's very hopeful, and I feel like that's what comes on the other side of forgiveness, right?
Hmm.
Is the all the beautiful possibilities of what we can be as humans are really wrapped up in our children. And yeah, we're in a difficult time right now, but I yeah, I just what you said is spot on, man. And I think that we're gonna be all right. I think everything's gonna be okay. Like Bob Marley says, right?
I'm gonna take it one step further. I know we're gonna be all right.
There we
I
go.
know we're gonna be all right. You want to know why I know that? Because we're all right now, and we've been all right up until this point. The world is wild. The world is full of surprises, and it's full of pivots. It's nothing different, y'all. It really isn't. Stop, for real. Just stop getting y'all's panties in a bunch. Focus on what you got to do. You got to, do your thing. Spend some time with your family. Go take that vacation that you've been wanting. Sit down for a minute. Just chill out. Because all the stuff that you're worrying about, you can't do anything about it anyway. You can be mad about it all you want, but you're not going overseas to go visit anybody and draw some kind of solution. And if we're concerned about things, then what are the solutions? That's the thing. We talk about a lot of things that we're not happy with, but a lot of us very rarely come up with any solutions on what we would do, unless it's something abrupt and drastic and crass, just for to be facetious and entertaining at the moment. But other than that, it's like, what are we gonna argue with each other about for hours and hours and not be friends with each other over it? And none of us came up with solutions. Shut up. Be quiet. Stop. It's like that's what they want us to do anyway, when you think about it. They want us to argue with each other, so it takes eyes off of them. Duh.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's just, hey man, I just call how I see it.
Well, this is awesome, man. We made it through 21. This is
Hey,
this is great. And we're doing the fight cast in Discord now. So the Fight Night React will be in Discord. If you are not in Discord, jump into Discord and we'll be hanging out as long as necessary. So it's great,
yeah.
Izzy.
Yeah. And if you guys made it this far with us, all the way to the end, in that comment box, drop those praying hand emojis, or as some others would look at it, as two people giving each other high fives. Over here, we're about spirituals. That is a praying hand. So go ahead and drop those praying hands in there.
There we go. Awesome, man. And next week we'll be back with episode 22. So let's get it.
22, baby. Let's go. Pleasure doing this. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Never give up the fight.
Never give up the fight.
You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. Looking for change, looking for pain. Pulling a mob, pushing a train. I'll never stop, stick to a lane. Pick up the pieces and go rearrange. I'll be the best above all the rest, put me to the test and expect nothing less. You check as I'm chess, what's happening next? Yeah. He got the venom, a tangible weapon, no coming in second. This life is a lesson. He got a new engine from pain, that's a blessing. New focus, no guessing, just bold and obsession. All in his possession, you got their attention. I leave an impression and take your redemption. Just kill no discretion, your mind is a weapon. 11-11, it's time for progression. You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try the chains, you can say no, free me. So he's been looking for somebody who could save him, instead of searching inside for what they gave him. A strong will, strong mind causes mayhem. We could change the world, change times, rearrange them. Staying on pace, running the race. Life is a chase, I don't want a place, I wanna be first. Work till it hurts, dehydrated thirst till I'm in a hearse. High ambitions and the right mind can take you so far. It's like you lived a few lifetimes. Take off from a break off from the weak minds, they can stay soft. You can change lives, you create thoughts, never waste time. You got one shot, you got one life, better pop off. What do you like? Make a dream job. No 9-5, no mean boss, just my life and free thoughts. You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try the chains, you can say no, free